Let's bring in Peter King, Football Morning in America columnist. And, Pete, on the road, USC, Colorado on Saturday. What brought you all the way to Boulder, Colorado?
Dan, one of the things I tell young journalists when I talk to them at colleges is one of the things you have to do this job is to be curious. And aren't we all curious? I mean, I met CC Sabathia on the sidelines of, on the Colorado sidelines before the game. And I said, what are you doing? And he goes, I love Deion. I grew up loving this guy. I just had to see this. And I mean, I kind of felt almost exactly the same. I just had to see it. And it's totally fascinating, from talking to tailgaters who are incredible pragmatists at 6:25 a.m. I mean, it was a 10 a.m. Mountain game. And so I thought the coolest thing, though, of the weekend, I mean, there are a lot of cool things. Shadour Sanders, Dan, is going to play in the NFL for a long time, and he's going to be good. I was really impressed with him. But I thought one of the coolest things is the USC wake-up call at their hotel in Denver to play in this 10 a.m. Mountain Time game. The USC wake-up call was 4:40 a.m.
Oh, wow.
And, so which is 3:40 a.m. on their body clocks. So,
wow.
As I wrote in my column, this is just a taste of what they're going to get when they go to Columbus and Fox says you're playing the big noon game this week. So, it was interesting on a lot of fronts.
Who do you think has a bigger upside, though? And maybe this isn't fair to ask you, but Caleb Williams or Shadour Sanders when it comes to next level?
I came away more impressed with Shadour Sanders because he does more of the things you're going to have to do. At least, look, Dan, I'm not a college football nut. Yeah. I don't know. I watch one game. But I do know that I saw a lot of evidence in this one game that Shadour Sanders could really be extremely good. He processes very, very well. He's got a great arm throwing it on the run. He's incredibly confident. He's got his father's confidence. And he made a couple of throws in this game that you just say, his touchdown pass in the fourth quarter on 4th and 5 rolling out, there was no window. There was no space at all. And he completed it. Now, look, Caleb Williams, he has all the time in the world.
Yeah.
As I said, that on that long pass that he threw for a touchdown that he threw across his body, he had 7.42 seconds to throw. In Patrick Mahomes' career, 7 years, 17 times in his career, he's had 7.42 seconds or more to throw. It rarely happens in the NFL. So I'm saying celebrate the guy, and I'm sure that he's going to be a good pro, but all I can say is he's got a lot of advantages that Shadour Sanders does not have.
Do you think the Deion style can translate into success in the NFL if he would want to do that?
That's a great question. I think, he's obviously insistent. He told Rich Eisen that he wasn't going to the NFL and all that. I just keep wondering what happens when Jerry Jones shows up in Boulder in 3 years and said, it's your destiny. You need to coach the Cowboys. Who knows? I don't know, but I do think the one advantage that Deion has at Colorado is if he chooses, he can get a new team every year. He's just going for that's what he did this year. He's got a new team, and he can do the exact same thing this offseason. He needs an offensive line, and he needs a couple of pass rushers. He'll find them because everybody wants to play for Deion. When you got all these musicians and star athletes on the sidelines, I mean, a lot of these guys look at a lot of the recruits and players look at these guys and say, why wouldn't I want to come here?
He's Peter King, Football Morning in America columnist, and, of course, contributes to Football Night in America. You can find his column, NBCSports.com. Worst loss of the weekend in the NFL was who?
Oh, I think there were two that were tied. I think the Bears loss was awful because it exposed so many cracks on their team and in their organization. You have this game where Justin Fields, for the first time in a long time, plays great. Now he turns it over a couple times in the second half, but overall, that was a B+ performance. That was absolutely terrific. And I guess I look at it and I say it just shows that, look, they've lost now, what, 14 games in a row. I don't see how Matt Eberflus survives, and now you get this Chase Claypool thing bubbling up. But the other really bad loss, I thought, was Washington, through very little fault of its own. The Commanders, I thought, played absolutely valiantly. The last 2 years in Philadelphia, they're 1-1 in Philly, and they've outscored the Eagles at Lincoln Financial Field. This is a good team. And the quarterback, Dan, yesterday, he had a great day. I thought Sam Howell's numbers weren't the best, but he had a great day. And I think Washington, I don't know if it'll be this year, it'll be soon. I think they're going to be trouble for people because that defense is legitimate.
What about the Bengals?
I mean, what do you expect now? I chuckled during the week when I was reading stuff about, okay, well, look at the Bengals now. They got a couple of games they can win. They're playing Tennessee. They're playing, I think, Arizona. They got a couple of games they can win. Hey, look, people look at the Bengals now and say, we got the Bengals. We can beat them. Dan, I had a note in my column this morning that in 21 and 22, Joe Burrow threw a touchdown pass every 16 pass attempts. This year, he's thrown a touchdown pass every 76 pass attempts. Yeah. And he's just not Joe Burrow. So the question is, should you gut it out? And look, Dan, I heard you talk before about, well, just get to the bye, let him get healthy and everything. There's no indication at all that he's going to be healthy if you just give him 2 weeks to do nothing but rehab. So I'm not really sure that is the way to go. I think this is going to be an injury that unless you give him 6 or 8 weeks off, it's going to plague him the whole year.
Yeah, but that's what I said a couple of weeks ago, that let him get healthy. If the doctor says, hey, if you take a month off, you're going to be able to be healthier. If not, then it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Watching the Bills and the Dolphins, what stands out that you think is sustainable for either one of these after that performance?
I talked to Sean McDermott after the game, and he said to me that it was really, he said, I've been in the NFL for a while. He said, that was the most amazing crowd I've heard. I've never heard more noise in an NFL stadium. And he goes, shout out to Bills Mafia. But I think two things. Number one, Josh Allen was really, really good because, Dan, you remember a couple of times this year, he's taken way too many hits and he's taken way too many chances with the ball. But I thought that he played the game exactly right. He wasn't in one collision, a legit collision on the field. And I thought his decision-making was pristine. And look, when you've got Stephon Diggs playing at the top of his game, which he was yesterday, he reminds me so much of Michael Irvin because he is able to be physical. He has got the utmost confidence in what he does. And when he broke that tackle and ran for the 55-yard touchdown, I just said, that has got to be on his career highlight tape because that's who he is. He says, get off me, you bum. That's the way Michael Irvin used to be. I always thought what I call Michael Irvin is the best physical wide receiver I've ever seen. And Stephon Diggs is in his league.
I'm watching the Cowboys. They're blowing out the Patriots. And you can have questions about, what's the future there of their coach and quarterback. But 7 minutes to go. Why is Micah Parsons still in the game? Why is Dak Prescott still in the game?
I don't know the answer to that. I really can't answer it. In a 17-game season, I say this about guys like Deebo Samuel, Micah Parsons all the time. I basically say, listen, you're risking when you've got a 20-plus point lead midway through the fourth quarter. You got to get as many people out as you can for a very simple reason, because you're just sort of, challenging the injury gods. And especially with guys like Parsons, who doesn't know any other speed. Dan, a couple of weeks ago, I said this and I got an incredible amount of crap for it. But to me, I covered Lawrence Taylor for 4 years in the 80s, and Micah Parsons is the closest thing I've seen to him. I'm not saying he's better. I'm really not. I'm saying that Parsons does the most things like Lawrence Taylor of anybody I've seen in all the intervening years. And to me, the Cowboys should do everything possible when they're up by 20 or more, chain him to the bench. I mean, lose his helmet. He shouldn't be playing. And I understand. I feel the same way really about Dak Prescott.
Is Bill Belichick fireable?
There's only one person who knows that, maybe two, Robert and Jonathan Kraft. I don't think it's going to come to that. I don't think Robert Kraft would ever want to do that. And I think there would be some sort of golden handshake with him and Bill. But again, I don't know, Dan. It's easy to sit here and say that Bill Belichick's coached 498 NFL games and that was his worst loss. This is going to be the fourth straight year they won't win a playoff game. I mean, it'd be a shock if they rebounded to make the playoffs. So I don't know, Dan. At some point, I think Robert Kraft is going to stop being sentimental and gauzy and longing for the old days and saying, listen, we got to win now. And the guy who's the coach and the procurer of talent has not done a really good job. So I think that at least it's not out of the question. I have no idea if it's going to happen.
Great to talk to you again, Pete. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, all the best, Dan. Thank you.
Peter King, Football Morning in America, NBCSports.com.